Hello, and thank you for taking the time to view this video. My name is Glenn Gabriel. My wife, Sasha, and I are both authors, and I create the book covers for both our short stories, full-length novels, and epic novels. Today we're going to create the cover, fictitious cover, that you see on the left, Murder by Moonlight. We're going to focus on adding texture and proportional shadows to text, as you see within the image. The graphics that we're going to be using to create this book cover are as follows. On the left, what appears to be foliage is actually what is known as a flame fractal. At the end of this video, I'll be giving a website link where you can actually go and obtain the free flame fractal software known as Apophis. Beside that, we have the image of a girl. She was created in a program called Poser. I brought in a figure of a woman, posed her, and will be placing her on the cover. To the right of her, on top, is simply an image, just a graphic image of a tile, which we're going to place within the text for my name. Below that is an image of a red tile with some black lines on it. We're going to use that as the texture for the heading, Murder by Moonlight. What we'll cover within this video. We're going to turn ordinary text into extraordinary text by using any graphics image as a texture within the text. It can be an image of bricks, it can be an image of the sky, of grass. Any image that you have can be placed inside of the text to change it from ordinary to extraordinary. Next, we're going to create proportional shadow beneath the text, demonstrating how to lengthen or foreshorten the shadow, angle the shadow to simulate the direction the light is coming from, blurring the shadow, and fading the shadow to simulate diffused lighting. And last, we'll add a lens flare and discover how to eliminate the annoying multiple circles flares create, which may ruin an otherwise great image. And now, let the adventure begin. All right, we're going to create a book cover from scratch. My wife, Sasha, and I are both published authors, and we're asked quite often, what pixel dimensions do we use to create our ebook covers, and can that also be used for printed books, like a 6x9 paperback? The answer to that, of course, is yes, and this is what I use. I set things up to a width of 1,800 pixels and a height of 2,700 pixels at a resolution of only 72 pixels per inch. That will change for, let's say, a printed book, which needs to be 300. The reason that I set this up at 1800 by 27 at 72 is what I'm going to show you now. If we create this, right now we're only at 25% visually. If we look at image and we come down to image size, we can see that at 1800 pixels wide, 2700 pixels height, as far as the standard pixel dimension goes, if this were printed as a document on paper, its width is 25 inches wide by 37.5 inches in height at a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. Now, that's way bigger than anybody would need for any kind of a book, especially for an ebook. But that's what places like Smashwords.com, Amazon.com, and others require, is something with this pixel dimension at the top. Usually a minimum of 1600 in width, and the height can be anywhere between, let's say, 1 to 1.5 to 1.2, somewhere around in that range. Here, if this was going to be converted to, let's say, a printed book, all I have to do is come down to the width here and change this to a 6. This automatically changes to a printed document size of 6x9, which is a paperback size. This dimension up here has dropped way down, which no one would accept. But if we now change the resolution to 300 pixels per inch, is what most of the publishers like, it's now brought it back up to 1800 by 27, which is right back to within their rules that you must have. So that's why I do this. For this particular demonstration, I'm going to leave it at 6 by 9, so it is a book cover size, but I'm going to drop this down to 90 pixels per inch, which I know will fit on my screen here, just for this demonstration. I'll go ahead and change the view to actual pixels. We'll drag that down, and now here is our 6 by 9 cover. I'm going to come in and just fill, using the bucket here, with black. I'm going to fill that in with black just to give us a background to start off with. Now to start creating the cover. Let's go up to File and do Open. I have a few things in here that we're going to use to create this cover. The first thing I want to do is to load in this bush. It looks like a bush anyway. It's actually a fractal, but we're going to go ahead and accept that. I'll drag it into the scene. Get it out of the way here. Drag it into our scene. Get rid of it so it's not in our way. And right now it's pretty darn huge. So I'm going to go in and do Edit. We'll transform its scale so that we can bring it down in size a bit. And let me just keep looking at that. That's not too bad like it is. Tell you what, let me bring it down just a little bit more. And let's see what we have here. Yeah, a little bit more. That'll work. I think that'll work fine. I'm going to press Enter. Well, actually, before I do that, let me stretch it out a little bit. I'd like a little bit more down here. Possibly something like this. Yep, that looks pretty good. Kind of like that little piece in there too. I'm going to press Enter to accept it. I'm leaving some space up here at the top to put in the title of the book, and I'm leaving room down here to put my name as the author. So now what I want to do with that layer, it's a little dull, so we'll go up to Image, Adjustments, and I like to go into Auto Contrast for a lot of images. Watch the screen. See how it brightened up? Gives it a little depth too. I very much like that. We're now going to go in and add the girl. So we'll take her and add her in here. Drag her across. Get rid of this. She's quite large, so we'll go ahead and go in and transform the scale. And scale her down until she's more appropriate for our cover size. And just drag her down here. I want her a little bit smaller. Probably in here somewhere. That's probably good right there. So I'm going to press Enter to accept her. She's a little red. I want this to be kind of a nightish kind of a scene. So her body being this red, we're going to need to go up here to Image, Adjustments, and I'm going to come down here to Color Balance. And since it's the highlight on her that I'm really concerned with, over here in Color Balance, down here under the Tone Balance, I'll select Highlight, come up to this slider, which is the yellow and blue, and I'm going to slide that to the right towards the blue. Watch her body. See how that changes? What I want to do is add just a little to it, and then come up here to this top one, which is cyan and red. If we go to the right, of course she gets really red. But if we go to the left, watch her body. See how it lightens up? So I want to just go back and pull just a little, probably right in there. And I'll click on the preview, watch her body. That was before our adjustment. And now, after our adjustment. Before, after. Just a little bit more of a moon glow to her. So we'll accept that. At this point, I like to go in and add just a little bit of sharpness to her. So we'll go into the Unsharp Mask. That looks good right where it is. Okay, this is basically all I want within our image. Looks a little odd, you say, especially at the bottom, but we're about to fix that. we're going to come in, going to flatten the image, and then we're going to add water to this scene. So we're going to come up to Filter, and we're going to use a plug-in filter that you can get for Photoshop called Flaming Pear Flood. Watch what happens when I click on this. We get an image that comes up with a lot of sliders. I won't go through these now. I just wanted to show you what the water can do. You can change the horizon, the heights of the water. You can change the ripples in the water, all kinds of things. Here, I'm just going to click a couple of times so that we can see where she is here, where the water is. It's way down here. I want it way up here. So we'll change this. See the water coming up here? Change a little more. That's kind of nice actually, but I'm going to bring it up maybe just a hair more. For our purposes, just to make this quick, we'll accept it there. So now, here's our girl in water. Isn't that great? I love this plugin. Since this is pretty much what we want at the moment, it's time to go ahead and start adding our text in here. So what we'll do is to come over to our text. Since it's black, I'm going to change this to a different color. I'm going to change this to red. And let's just go up here and give our title. We'll call it Murder to start with here. I think we'll do two of them. We'll do a murder and then we'll do a second line. This one is quite a bit small, so we'll go back and increase that. How about something like a 50? That might work. Okay, for now let's just go ahead and toss it over here. Now this is one thing that a lot of people don't know that you can do. They'll go ahead and put text in just like you see it in a color. But remember, you can come over here to edit. Come down to transform and over to scale. What we can do now is to click on this bottom. I'm going to click and hold and then pull down, and you can elongate this. You can make some really interesting text this way. That looks pretty good for my purposes. Press enter to accept that. Let's put in another row of text because this is going to be Murder by Moonlight. So we've got Murder by Moonlight. We'll bring this over. Actually, that's pretty darn big. Let's see if we can bring that down a little bit. Maybe down to about 40 pixels. That's better. And again, I'm not taking a lot of time with this. You would certainly want to spend much more time and get everything perfect, but this is going to be okay for what we're doing. Let me shift that over just a little bit. Down here on the right-hand side, lower right-hand side, which is our layers palette, we now have by Moonlight above Murder. It's okay to leave it that way. I'm just a little strange, and since it actually says Murder over Moonlight, I'm just going to click and hold, drag up, and put Murder above it. Just something I like to do. You don't need to do that. Here's the thing. Looking at our text up here, it's just plain colored text. It's something that everybody uses all the time. There's no real interest to it. So let's change that. I'm going to come over here to File, and I'm going to open. Let's use this little red tile. You can use any image. If it's an image of bricks, you can use it. If it's an image of sky, you can use it. If it's an image of trees within a forest, you can use it. If it's an image, you can place it inside of the text to make some fantastic looking textures. So we'll go ahead and take this. It's pretty small. We're going to go ahead and drag it over here. And what we want this to do is to be able to cover whatever text it is that you're trying to texture. So here it's certainly high enough to cover the M, but it isn't long enough. So we're going to come over to Edit. We'll transform the scale. I'm going to click and hold and then just drag it to the right until it's just covered it. No big thing, just covered it. I'm going to press the Enter key to accept that graphic. And here comes some of the magic. What we do is on this right-hand side of the screen, where we've got this graphics texture in there, there's a line that separates that graphics image from the text, murder. Point your mouse directly on that line, and you see it's a little finger that's pointing there. Hold your Alt key down, and you notice that the cursor changes to two circles, a black and white one. When you click, look up here, you now have that graphics image, whether it's clouds, bricks, whatever, is now inside of the text. Is that cool or what? Not only that, but you can also now click and drag and move that around inside of the text until you get something that you like. I kind of like that line going through there. It's kind of like murder. It's a bloody image with slashes going through it. So I'm going to leave it like that. It's a little dull. So let's go up to Image, Adjustments, and I like to go down to Auto Contrast. Watch your image on the screen. That's not bad. Notice how much texture and more interest there is to that text. But we're not done. Let's now, instead of staying in the graphics, I'm going to click on the text layer here for murder. So we're no longer in the graphics within it, we're now on the text layer itself. Now we can come up here and go into Layer, come down to, let's say, Layer Style. I'll just click on Drop Shadow, which we'll be using later. Up here, since we can't see the shadow, it doesn't really matter what the distance is set to, but we'll look at that a little bit later. What I am interested in is down here, which is Bevel and Emboss. Now watch the word murder up there when I click this. Here we go. Did you see it jump? Much nicer. We can add even contour in there. Again, a different look. But here we go. I'm going to click now where it says Bevel and Emboss. We're going to come up here to the Structure, Style, and you can play with all of these, but right now I know that instead of using the inner bevel, I'm going to click on the down arrow and select Outer. See what it did? Here's before, here's after. Much nicer, isn't it? Now if you come back up here to the drop shadow, again, it doesn't matter how big the shadow is because we can't see it. What does matter is this angle. Watch the word murder and notice it changing. That's because of the angle of the drop shadow. Regardless of whether you have any distance in there or not, it affects how the text is going to look. Now technically, looking at the girl, we've got light coming down at this angle. So you may want to change this so that it's pointing at roughly that angle. That gives you the same kind of shading up here. We're going to go ahead and accept that. Say OK. And now let's go down to, well actually since we like the way this looks, one of the problems is if you go to move that text, the text will move but the graphics within it will not. Or if you come over here and we clicked on the graphics and try to move the graphics, it will move as we saw before, the text will not. We want them to remain one, so this is important. You must link these two together. This little square in here, if you click, puts like a link of a chain. That means that this graphics layer is now linked to this text layer. This is important because now we can come up here to Layer, come all the way down here and say what we want to do is to merge anything that's linked together. Now I'm going to hit this in a minute. Look at the right hand side of your screen where you see that blue marker. Here we go. There we are. It's no longer text. It's now graphic, which means that yes, we can move the word murder anywhere on the screen that we want to. It's no longer text. It's graphic. Okay, let's go down by Moonlight. I'm going to step through this fairly quickly because we want to get to other things, especially the shadow on the text, which is what this video is really about. So what we'll do here is to go back in And we'll drag this in. Can get rid of this now. We need it to be at least high enough to cover the text that you want, which this definitely is. And we need it to be wide enough, so we'll go back in to transform, scale, click, drag to the right to cover it. And if you want to, you can even drag this up so that you can get, let's say, more of that line or something that's starting in there, which I think will be nice. I'm going to press enter to accept that, to accept the scaling. Now on the right hand side, here we go again. We now have a graphics layer. We want that graphic to be inside of the text. So point the cursor between the two to that border, hold down your Alt key, click your left mouse button, and it's now inside again. And I'm going to just click, hold, and drag until I get the line to there. That's kind of nice with that slashing line going through there. Go up. I want it a little brighter, so we'll go into adjustments. We'll go down to auto contrast. I want to change over to the text layer now. We're going to come back up, and what we want to do now is to go into the layer, layer styles. I'm going to add a drop shadow, and that gives us an angle that we're looking at. Go down to bevel and emboss. Might add a little contour in there just for fun. Click on the bevel and emboss. We're going to change the structure style from inner bevel to outer bevel. See how it jumped up there? And then it's just a matter really of what distance you want. Now watch by moonlight. See how it's widening out? I mean, it gets so wide it just blurs out. So you can come down here to nothing or add just a little bit or as much as you want. I think we'll probably go down to maybe 3. I'm going to click OK. And again, excuse me, I like this. I think this is going to be fine for our little demonstration. I like that it's red, kind of bloodish. It's got slashes through here. I like that. What I want to do now is to come back over to this side of the screen, and I want to take that text layer, link it to the graphics that's within it, so that we can come back over here to layer and drop down to merge linked. And if you look over here, it's simply a graphic now. This is great. This is all I want for right here. So what I'm going to do, just leave that, and we're going to start doing the text that we want, that we're going to put a shadow beneath. So let's go back over here. We'll get our red text. But what I'm going to do, just so we can see something, I'm going to go to the background layer over here. I'm going to come down and ask it for a brand new layer. And in this layer, I think we'll come across here, and let's go and fill it with white. The only reason I'm doing that is so we can see what we're going to be doing with the text that we're going to put in. So we'll come back here, go into text, and I'm going to type my name. All right, that's pretty darn large, so let's reduce that down from up here around 40 point, let's say 30 might be okay for this. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to click on Move, our Move tool. And this can be anywhere for right now, because we're just going to look at it. And this is important because this is how we're going to do our shadow beneath the text. I've chosen red simply because I can see it. You can make it any color you want because it won't matter, because we're going to go ahead and put a texture in there anyway. Here we go. On this right hand side where we've got my name, I'm going to right click inside and select Duplicate Layer. I'm going to call this one Shadow Text. Press enter. And with that selected, the shadow text selected, what I want to do now is to come over to the text, and I'm going to come up and change the text color to black because we're doing our shadow. Now, you can leave this where it is with the shadow above the actual name. For me, I like to drag that down, keep everything in my mind straight, because I've got my name and I'm going to have the shadow beneath it. So it just helps me in my own mind keep clear on what it is I'm doing. What we're going to do now, with shadow text selected, one we just did, which is black, which is directly behind here, we're going to come up here to edit. We're going to come down to transform, and we're going to come across and down and flip this vertically. I'm going to come up here to move, select our move tool. I'm going to just move off to the side. I'm now going to press and hold down my down arrow. Now watch the screen. I'm just going to drop that down here. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a gap. A lot of times you wouldn't want to do that, but since I'm going to make my name here that you see in red now thicker like we have up here, it's going to take a little bit more space, so I'm going to leave myself a little gap. Right now there isn't a lot you could do with this upside down text because it's text. This is where people just go nuts trying to figure out what can I do with that, and there isn't anything that you can really do. Here's the trick. You want to come up here and you want to go to the layer. You want to come down to rasterize. Now this rasterize, we're going to rasterize the text. What that means is we're going to change the text from a standard text layer to a graphic. So it's no longer going to be text, it's going to be a graphic. Now take a look at the lower right hand side of the screen where you see where it says shadow text in the blue there. Watch that as I hit this. Watch. Did you see? It no longer is a T for text. It's now a graphic image. Now a graphics image you can fade, you can rescale, change its size. You can do all kinds of things with it. That's the key. So now that we've got this as a graphics, and it doesn't look any different than regular text, here's the fun. We can now come up to edit. We can come down to transform, and look what we have here. Perspective. We click on perspective, and I'm going to show you a couple things that perspective can do. It's kind of fun. If I click and hold over here and I pull down, watch the text. Cool, huh? You can push on it. If we come back here and we pull to the side, look at this. Even if your cursor goes up and down a little bit, it's keeping this in perfect perspective. So you can make this as wide, like however the light is hitting it, or as narrow as you want, or you can even bring it upside down here. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to bring this out a little bit, say to about in here. Then I'm going to come back to edit, down to transform, and let's go down to distort, and this is kind of fun. If I come into the center here, let's say that your light source is off on this right hand side. That means the shadow should be tilted off to the left. By clicking and holding and pulling to the left, look at this. You can actually shift your shadow to simulate wherever your light source happened to be. You can also make the shadow longer, or in this case what I want to do is to foreshorten it maybe somewhere around in there, and then press enter to accept it. Now for me, looking at this, the shadow is too crisp and too black. So one of the things we can do, since it's too crisp, is let's say that we come up here to filter, we slide down to blur, and we pick a Gaussian blur. We can make it really blurry, not blurry at all, or anywhere in between. Let's try maybe a 2 and see what that does. That's not bad. Let's try 1.5. Actually, I think I'll take the 1.5 here. There's one other thing that you should know here. We've got it kind of fuzzy, but what if you're trying to simulate the light from, let's say, outside on a cloudy day, a more diffused light? This is great because this is a graphics. It's no longer text. So we can now come over to this right-hand side, go into our layers area, and look at opacity. It's now at 100%. Watch the shadow. As I move this, notice what's happening? You can change the density of that shadow to anything that you like. So if there's very bright, like a point light, of course it would be more sharpened. If it's a diffuse light, it would be dropped down. For our demo, I'm going to start right about in here somewhere and accept that. I'm going to change to the text layer because I don't want it to be red. I want some kind of a texture in there. So we'll go back up to File and Open. I'm going to use this because it is huge, and I just want to show you it doesn't matter the size. I mean, this thing is huge. I'll pull it down and we'll just go ahead and move it in there. And I'll get rid of this. And as you can see, the thing is very, very large. We'll go back into Edit, Transform, Scale, and we're going to go ahead and rescale this. Remember, right now this would be huge if you went to save this as a file. But when we're done, we're going to flatten the image, which means that everything comes down to a smaller size. So don't worry about these huge things that you may be dumping onto the screen to make text or whatever. All of that changes later. Okay, we've got plenty of size here. Okay, remember, it just needs to be wide enough and large enough to cover the text. So I'll just dump it up there. I'm going to press Enter to accept that size. I'm going to the right-hand side of the screen. I'm going to point to the division between that graphics layer and the text that I want that graphics to go within. Hold down the Alt key, click, it's now inside. And again, since it's graphics, we can move it around. We can move it any place that we want to. I kind of like it just in here somewhere, just something a little bit different. That's fine, just so that you can see how this works. I'm going to move back to the text layer now because I want to be able to go up. And here, if we go into the layer, layer style, and hit drop shadow, look what happens. Do you see the drop shadow in there? If I increase it, watch my name up there. See how the shadow moves in and out? We don't want that shadow. We already have a shadow. So pull that all the way out. We can go back into our bevel and emboss. We can add a contour if you'd like. Click on bevel and emboss. I'm simply going to change the structure style from inner bevel to outer bevel. Watch my name. See that? Now, here on the size, we can either pull it all the way out, and again, just watch my name there, or we can start adding to it until it blurs out. Typically on something like this, anywhere from 0 to, let's say, 2 maybe on here is plenty. And I like that. I think that's going to be fine for our demonstration. So I'll accept that. Right now, if we move down here, we've got this graphic, we've got the text. I'm happy with the way that the graphic image or our texture is in the text, so I'm going to link these two together, come back up here to where we've got layer, and come down to where we can merge those linked layers. So now this text and the graphics have been combined to simply make a graphic. And again, the thing here is that should we decide to move, we're moving the name, but the shadow does not go with it. Something we definitely don't want. So let's put that back. And in order to keep those together, let's just link them. So here's our text, our main one with the graphics. Let's just link it to the shadow for now. Not merge them, just link them for now. And let's go ahead and take this white one out for a second and see what we've got. Well, there we are. Of course, you can't see the shadow here, but that's okay. And what we're going to do, since these two are linked, we can actually come up here now and pull this down. We can reposition it. This is going to go down here somewhere. Even though we can't see the shadow, this is about roughly where I want it to go. We can now, if we want to, come over here and get rid of this layer. So I'm going to click on it. You can see our shadow down here. I'm going to right click, delete the layer. Yes, I wish to delete it. And now I'm going to come down over here and I'm going to create a layer just above the background. And what we're going to do here is to drop in, I'll go back over here, I'm going to put in a gradient. Now when you click on gradient, if you come up here, there are several different types you can pick, and on this particular one we're taking the linear gradient. If you click up on this, I've got it set right now so that we're using foreground to transparent, and by clicking on these tabs you can change the color. And I've just got a blue here, fading, because this is from your foreground color, blue, all the way to transparent. So we're going to use that, and this is what we get. Now by putting this on its separate layer, we can delete it, we can do it as many times as we want. If we would have done this on the background layer, it's part of that layer, so if you screw up, everything that you've done is messed up. So I always create a separate layer that I can delete as many times as I want to. What I'm going to do now is to come down to the bottom of the screen. I'm going to click and hold my left mouse button, hold down my shift key, which just keeps things straight, and I'm going to bring that line up. If we go to the very top of the screen and release, this is what you get. Interesting, isn't it? Notice how our shadow down here really shows up, but we've kind of covered up a lot of our image. So what we'll do is to take that out and try it again. I'm going to click, hold, press shift, and let's say that we bring it up to about our waist. Watch this. How about that? Isn't that great? So we're actually merging the gradient into the image. You can also, remember, since this is on its own layer now, you can come up here to opacity, which is at 100%, and drop the opacity down. Now watch the image on screen. See that? Isn't that great? You can adjust this to just about any look that you'd like. If this is too much for you, then of course you can change the gradient again, and maybe start at the bottom. I'm going to click and hold, add shift, and what if we come just about up in here somewhere? There's a whole different look. This is basically what it would look like on your screen, and that would pretty much be your book cover. I'm going to leave it right there for now because I want to show you the lens flare very quickly, but this is all I really wanted to show you, is how you can actually take texture, put it inside of text to add more interest, such as what we did up here with Murder in By Moonlight, also on my name, but especially how you can create this wonderful type of shadow effect and either blend it in to where it fades or whatever you want. In fact, that's a great thing. I just remembered looking at that. If we come back to our shadow text, since we did not merge these together, our shadow text is still separate. So we can come right back up here to opacity. I'm going to slide it to the right, making it very hard. You can see how very stark that is. If we slide this to the left, watch the shadow. See that? We can blend that down to any level that you want. I kind of like it right in here, and for this demonstration I think that's right where I'm going to leave that. Now I'm going to flatten the whole image. Typically I would save it here, but I'm going to flatten it at this point. So I want to add a lens flare in here. Once you have what you want, my recommendation is to come right over to where it says background and right click, duplicate the layer, and you can put in any name. I just leave it as it is, And now what we're doing, we're going to play with the duplicate. So we've always got this other one that we can return to that we know is good. With this one highlighted, let's come up here. Actually, let me change this back, sorry. Let's come up to filter. We're going to drop down to render, come across and down to lens flare. And unfortunately, you can't increase the size of this little window. It's really hard to see where that lens flare is going to go. I'm going to do a couple of them for you. I'll tell you what, let's put one down here near my name, and I'm going to click down here, which brings it down, and notice that you can change the lens flare size. You usually have to do this several times in order to get something you like. I like the 35mm prime one because it gives a nice flare to it. I might even increase that just a little bit. I'm going to click OK, and there's our flare. Isn't that great? Might want to move it just a little bit. I'm going to play with it just a little bit, just so that you can see kind of how this works. Go back in here, oops, render. And let's bring it up a little bit because I can't really see where it is here. Hit it again. And you can add a nice lens flare. You might like it there, you might not. You can change its size again by changing the intensity if you'd like to. Show you one other place that you might be able to put this. This is down for the name, which is usually where I would put it here. But also you might want to come in and do a render of a lens flare. And up here we have Murder by Moonlight. So let's put over the dot of the eye. I can't even see it on here. Somewhere down here. Let's go ahead and click. It's close, but actually this is really good. I'm going to move it over just a little bit, and then I'll show you why this was actually a good thing to try here. Let's move it over just a little bit, just for fun. We're almost done here, but I want you to see this. This actually gets to be pretty important later. Gosh, I hope I can do this right here. Close. We'll leave it there for now. But one of the things I wanted you to see is when we added this lens flare in down here, and I hope you can see it on the screen, right here is a green circle. I don't know if you can actually see that. I want you to watch right here. I'm going to click this layer off. Watch the screen right over my name. Before, after. Do you see that green circle pop up there? This is horrible. Typically when you put in a lens flare, you'll get a purple or a blue and a yellow and a green and maybe several of them all in a row. Sometimes it looks great, but there are other times you do not want these ugly circles in there. This is a prime example of why we used a duplicate layer. And here's why. We can now come over here to the eraser. We're at 100%. See where that circle is? Watch. Click, hold. Now I'm going to drag right over that circle. Look at this. It's gone. Circle's gone. All that garbage and this little piece over here, it's all gone. We've got a nice, clean image. Why? Well, that's what we just did. What we did was to delete what was on the upper layer, meaning that anything below it is going to shine through. And what's below it? A copy of itself. So when we deleted, it simply showed through our original layer. That's how you can get around having a lens flare look horrible. Right now I think that's all we're going to do. Last thing I would do here would be to flatten the entire image like so, and possibly come up to filter, do a sharp, unsharp mask. That's pretty good right where it is. And right there is our finished piece. Well, that's going to do it for this video, but as you can see, we've managed to go ahead and not only add text, but we've added texture to that text. We've managed to add a shadow beneath text and go ahead and be able to stretch that out proportionally. We can fade it. We can move it from side to side. There's all kinds of things you can do with this technique. I hope you've enjoyed this, and please visit us again soon. Thank you for watching. Here are two more examples of how you can take ordinary text and transform it into extraordinary text. I'm going to let you try to figure out how the two images were done, but I will create a short video in the future showing how this was done, just in case you can't figure it out. Before I give you the web addresses to where you can find the free software, let's take a look at what you can do with the flame fractals, water, and then adding just a few other elements. Keep an open mind and imagine what you can create with using these elements. Let's take a look. And now to where you can find the software. The free Apophis Flame Fractal software can be found at the address shown. You may want to pause your video while you jot this down for future reference. Water. Adding water to any image using the Flaming Pear Flood plugin. At the time of this video was created, the plugin ran about $30 United States dollars. In my opinion, worth every penny. Again, you may want to pause the video while you jot down the address for future reference. The version of Photoshop used in this video was an older version, Photoshop CS. I'm using an older version because many of you may not have updated your software, and I wanted to make sure that I could go back far enough to make sure that this would work on most of your systems. Photoshop is very expensive. The current version runs $700 United States dollars. I suggest you visit eBay and search for Photoshop. Brand new retail versions, sealed in the box, run between $250 and $475 United States dollars. It's still expensive, but much better. In an upcoming video, we're going to take this image provided by a good friend of mine and wonderful digital artist, Seth Jeffer, and we're going to transform this image into an e-zine cover for Witch Weekly. There's a lot to be done with that image, as you can see. Hopefully, you've picked up some tips and tricks within this video, and I hope you'll visit us again. Until next time, thank you for watching.